Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to show you 5 examples up on the screen here to do with the thumbnail of this video, and then we're going to discuss it. We're going to discuss Pokemon and singles investing. So let's just jump straight into it. Hey, the first one's from Twilight Masquerade, Applin, and I want you to look at 2 things when we look at these graphs and these Pokemon cards. I'm not going to go into detail on them. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes explaining each one. I'm just going to go through the numbers and we'll discuss it all at the end. So the first one, this card, Applin from Twilight Masquerade's gone from $13 to $10 just very recently. Sales, we've gone from 90 plus sales days down to 21 sales days. That is total volume of that card sold off TCG Player in a day. So 90 plus sales days down to 21 sales. Second card I want to show is also from Twilight Masquerade, Timber. Why do I always think of Kesha? Why do I always think of Kesha when I see that Pokemon? Anyway, that's weird. $8 and it's been holding steady for the last week or so. But again, look at the sales. 85 daily sales we've had on some occasions down to 25 sales per day. Third one I want to show you is from Shrouded Fable, Zorua. $20 down to $18 in the last week or so. We've gone from consistent build up to 40 sales days down to 20 sales a day. Fourth one I want to show is Scarlet and Violet bases, Greavard. The dog that don't know how it sees because it's got hair over its eyes, but somehow it does. $24 down to $16. We've seen 71 card sales days down to 15 sales per day. And the fifth one and final one I wanted to show you, which is a beautiful artwork, mind you, Paldea Evolved Archibacks. $45 down to $25. We've gone from a build up to 33 sales days down to, we're hovering at 6 sales, then 4 sales. You might, if you've watched these 5 or looked at this, got the point of what I'm talking about. I want to go into depth about singles, and this is one of the reasons I choose not to invest in singles. The reason for that is because it's so volatile. I don't want the risk. And also I don't have the time. I'm not saying it's a good play. I'm not saying it's a bad play. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a crack at it. If you love singles and you love Pokemon singles investing, and some of you are probably hugely successful that are watching my channel and have all the time in the world to be successful at it, fantastic. I'm still working at 8 to 5:30 and I don't have time to go buy, 50 copies of a particular card at $25, wait for it to go to $50 and then sell all 50 copies at $25 profit and, make myself $750 or whatever it works out to be. I don't have time to do that. If some of you do, fantastic, good on you, like I said. But let's look at why this is happening. Now, I want to make one thing clear when it comes to singles at the moment, and particularly modern singles. One thing you've got to realize that these aren't rare cards. They're just not. They're extremely common cards. So supply on these is plentiful, and supply on these is also increasing daily because the sealed product on these is also still relatively common. Whether we're talking Twilight Masquerade, Shrouded Fable, Scarlet and Violet base, Paldea Evolved, any Scarlet and Violet set, Scarlet and Violet sets are getting ripped like crazy on the daily. Even sets that are going back 18 months or so, like Paldea Evolved or Scarlet and Violet base. There is still plenty of it around and there's plenty of it being ripped. And when there's plenty of it being ripped, there's more circulation and more singles being added to the market. So supply is not rare on these cards and it is not low. What is good at the moment is demand. Demand has absolutely shot through the roof for Scarlet and Violet singles, particularly some of the special illustration rares, and moreover, even more particular, the illustration rares. And don't get me wrong, I think they deserve the demand at the moment. They have been underrated for an incredibly long time. It's that era of Pokemon where the illustration rares and the cards are almost becoming a piece of art. And I think people are starting to recognize that. Coupled with heaps of other external factors, Pokemon Pockets on the market, people may be becoming a particular age where they're starting to get back into Pokemon, whatever it might be. This isn't a video about going to the factors of why there's heaps of demand at Pokemon at the moment, but the fact is there is demand, and that demand is what's causing rises in prices on these cards. Now, some of that demand is also artificial, and I think you've got your head buried under a rock if you don't think some of it is artificial. I'm not saying all of it is. There are cases where people are buying out cards. Now, what it can also lead to, maybe someone's just bought 20 copies, and it adds that FOMO effect where other people just jump in and go, hold on, this card's seen a little rise, I might jump in and grab it. So you're getting heaps of individuals from all over the globe, all different states in the United States, buying these cards. So it's not all artificial, not at all. There's plenty of, generic or natural demand for these cards. But in some cases, some of them are being bought out and manipulated, and that's causing the prices to go rapidly up. So what we get in some cases is we get a huge difference between demand and supply, and almost the demand trying to eat up the supply so it dwindles it and sets a new floor for the price. Now, what can happen then, of course, is the 5 examples that I've showed you. And it's almost inevitable, isn't it? Almost like the thumbnail of this video said. It seems inevitable that eventually what goes up must come down. Now, when it comes to sealed products, that's a little bit different. Sealed products will naturally rise over time. Why? Because they get rarer and rarer. Eventually, look at Evolving Skies for argument's sake. Evolving Skies booster box is only getting rarer. There's still people ripping those booster boxes in the hope of pulling one of those beautiful alternate arts, including, of course, the big hit Umbreon VMAX alternate art. That is happening, and as that happens, the box gets rarer and rarer, and eventually it becomes an extremely niche sealed collectible. And that's why over time, it'll just continue to rise in value. Like for my money, if someone said, Michael, what would you invest in right now? An Evolving Skies booster box or a raw mint copy of Umbreon VMAX? For my money, it's always going to be the booster box. It always is. It's only going to get rarer. And as more get ripped, there's only going to be a trickle of it, but there's going to be more Umbreon VMAXs come onto the market. So for me, it's always, I'm not saying Umbreon VMAX isn't going to continue to go up in price. It might do, I don't know. Singles are too volatile. One thing I do know though, is Evolving Skies booster boxes, and I've been saying this for the last 2 years, aren't getting any cheaper. They're going to continue to rise in price. So for me, the safety net of knowing that and parking my money in an investment, it's always going to be the booster box for me. So on to that, the difference between sealed and singles and why this is happening. We can see quite clearly again from those 5 examples that I showed you that over time, if that demand starts to drop, which it has in these examples clearly shown by the daily sales decreasing, then we will either see a flat line, so a flat out of the price, or alternatively, we'll start to see them drop. Why? Because they're not rare. It doesn't matter if there are no daily sales over the last 3 months for a Crystal Nidoking, or a Crystal Lugia, or a Crystal Celebi, or a Gold Star Rayquaza, or a Gold Star Pikachu. It doesn't matter that there's no daily sales for those. Why? Because they're damn rare. There's a massive difference between those Pokemon cards and the modern singles we're seeing now. This isn't a beat up video, by the way, of modern singles. I just want to make it very clear that at the moment, the money and the demand and everyone that's coming into the hobby is pushing their money towards modern singles, particularly illustration rares. And rightly so, because they're beautiful cards, why not? But if that demand doesn't stay, we will start to see a retraction in some of the prices. And that's fine, it's just natural. That's the natural run of the market. And to show you another example of how natural it is, it happens all the time. Here's a beautiful card and one of my favorite sets from Sword and Shield, Chilling Reign, the Blaziken, and I've pushed this out over the last 12 months. Remember about 9 months ago, or even probably 10 or 11 months ago, we got that massive surge in alternate art Pokemon cards. Everything went up. Why? Because we're getting pretty deep into Scarlet and Violet, and people were thinking, well, you know what? These cards are probably never going to get printed again. So supply on these is going to be, what we got is sort of what we got until more gets open and maybe a few more come onto the market. So we saw massive increases in all alternate arts. Naturally though, as demand and money started to move towards Scarlet and Violet, as it started to take off and we got better sets and people were chasing the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade, and of course Surging Sparks come out and people were chasing the Pikachu, and money moves around. And as money moved from the alternate arts, for argument's sake, into more Scarlet and Violet products, we started to see a little bit of a retraction. Why? Because these cards aren't all that rare. Even alternate arts, there's There's tens of thousands, if not 100,000 copies of Blaziken VMAX from Chilling Reign on the market. And what do we see? We see a slight retraction in price. But once again, as you can see from this graph, it starts kicking back up again. And that's why, personally, I choose not to invest in singles because I can't time it. I don't know when it's going to happen. One thing I do know though is sealed booster boxes and sealed elite trainer boxes, and in particular Pokemon Center elite trainer boxes, are only going to get rarer as time goes on, and people like to have sealed collections. There's plenty of sealed collectors out there, me included, and those people will like to go back in time and buy some of those booster boxes. Yes, it's harder when they become $10,000 booster boxes or $6,000 booster boxes, but they will get rarer and older and more expensive with time. Whereas singles, on the other hand, are just so hard to time. And at the moment, with all these illustration rares, just to hammer home the point, there is so much demand and so much money moving into these, it is pushing up the price naturally. As demand starts outweighing supply, it will happen. But keep in mind, supply on these cards is massive. I wouldn't be surprised if the 5 examples I showed you, we don't start seeing across the board on some other cards. You know, does Drowsy from base set Scarlet and Violet really deserve to be a $90 card? Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful artwork. There's plenty of demand for that card at the moment. It's the flavor of the month, it's hot, it's on lots of YouTube thumbnails, but is it really a $90 card? What are the odds of pulling it? 1 in 13 multiplied by the total number of illustration rares in base set. 1 in 350, 1 in 400 to pull that card. $90 raw. Will it? Who knows? I'm saying I cannot predict the future in singles. I'm just saying, does it deserve to be a $90 card? For me, maybe it should be like a $45, $55 card. That's where it might come back and sit. It might come back and sit at a $75 card. There might be so much demand, more demand pumped into this, and so many more people come into the hobby. It could be a $150 card. It could be the next Magikarp from Powder Evolve for all I know. I don't get involved in singles. I just want to tell people and get the message that what we're seeing at the moment is non-rare cards essentially have huge amounts of demand pushed into them. That doesn't mean they're all going to go to zero. It just means, and I'll remind everyone once again, and I've done this in a few singles videos, just be careful putting massive amounts of money investing into cards where everyone's already jumped on board. You know, cards that have seen 300%, 400%, 500% increases in price, please don't get caught out going, okay, that card was $12, now it's $50. Oh, it's probably going to go up to 80, so I'm going to buy 30 copies of it. And then it retracts to 30 and you get massively caught out, which can happen with singles. So I just want to almost warn people just to be careful about, you know, the difference we're seeing at the moment, supply demand, which is really pushing up these card prices. And don't be alarmed or shocked if maybe some of these start to retrace, like the 5 examples that I've shown you. Just wanted to end the video with a big shout out to today's video sponsor, which is of course the Collector app. And speaking of singles, you can put all your singles inside the Collector app. You can put all your sealed product inside the Collector app. It has up-to-date pricing that updates daily from a range of sources, including TCG Player. You can put your whole collection in there. It'll give you total collection value, how much you're gaining per day. It'll also give you, monthly updates, quarterly updates, 6 monthly updates, what percentage profits you've gained. It's such a good app. You can now unstack singles on the app, which is a new feature. I'll leave the whole link for the Collector app in the description of the video. So if you don't have it, I urge you to download it. And if you do have it, please update it so you've got the latest updates. I'm Michael. This is PokeOz. Catch everyone next time.